chance to build your study guide. This, again, is exactly like the test is going to be. All we've done is we have changed the numbers up. But you need to understand how to solve them. If you memorize all the numbers, you're going to fail the test because the numbers are different. If you understand the concepts, how to do these, you're going to do just great on the test. This test, we're looking at 30 points. So in other words, this is equivalent to 6 homework assignments, which is basically the homework we've done for the entire year so far. So is this important for your grade?
Yes.
Yes. So please take your time, study on this, and write down your answers. Okay, our first part, write the prime factorization for each number. Prime factorization starts with our 4 key numbers, 2, 3, 5, 7. If I can divide it by 2, it's 2 and 14. Circle your prime numbers. 14, I can go 2 and 7. Those are both prime. That is all the work to find it. Remember, your prime factorization is a multiplication sentence saying what I multiply to get it. That's the prime factorization. That's your answer. Does that make sense? So the work is only half of it. You also need to write your answer correctly. You don't have to use exponents. You could do 2 times 2 times 7, but exponents just make it faster. Yes, ma'am?
If you did 7 multiplied by the 2 by the power of 2, would it still be right, or would it have to be?
Remember, we always start lowest and go bigger. I would count it. At this point, I wouldn't count it wrong or even lose points, but just get into the habit of always starting lowest and going biggest. Okay, so 40. I like starting at 2 if I can, just because that builds my entire piece from lowest to biggest. 20, I go 2 and 10. 10, I go 2 and 5. So I end up with 3 2s and a 5. Any question on prime factorization? Yes, Jaden?
You have to do it exactly.
No? No, I could have 40. I could have started at 5 times 8. You can do it any way you want to. Remember, prime factorization, any numbers. This is just how I personally prefer to do it because it lays it out in order for me. So then I'm not doing like Sophia and writing it backwards. Just makes it easy. Okay, next one, find the quotient. In other words, solve the division problem. 4 divided by 5 first step, make them both improper fractions. And then we're going to keep our first number like it is, change it to multiplication, and flip the second number, because we don't actually divide fractions. Look for reductions. In this case, there aren't any. So then 4 times 4 is 16. 1 times 5 is 5. Please don't forget to simplify. I then say 5 goes into 16 3 times with 1 left over. Our next one, again, make them both improper fractions. I don't divide fractions. Instead, I keep the first number, change it to multiplication, and flip the second number. Now I'm going to look at reductions. I've got a 1 and a 2. So 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 goes into 3 once with 1 left over. Number 3. Philip uses 4 2/3 cups of granola to make 1 batch of granola bars. How much granola does he need to make 2.5 batches of granola bars? So there's what I need to answer. How much granola does he need? So this one I'm doing repeatedly. So I'm taking the 4 2/3 times 2.5. So 4 2/3 times 2 1/2. But I can't multiply mixed numbers. I have to slam dunk, turn these into improper fractions. So 3 times 4, and then I add 2 gives me 12 14 over 3. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Because this is multiplication, I don't do any flipping. Multiplication is the easiest one. I just go straight up and multiply. I do look for reductions. I've got a 2 and a 14. I can divide both those by 2, gives me a 1 and a 7. 7 times 5 is 35. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 goes into 35 11 times with 2 left over. So he can make, or use, 11 2/3 cups of granola. And there is my answer. Any questions so far on the first page? Yes, Leanne? B? QB? I kept it, I changed it, I flipped. So I multiplied by the reciprocal.
So why is it
Because I can divide 2 by 2 and I can divide 4 by 2. It just makes the math easier. If you did 2 times 3, you got 6. 1 times 4, you got 4. 6 divided by 4 is 1 2/4, which implies to 1 1/2. If you don't make a math error, you'll eventually get to the same one. I just far prefer the reductions because there's less chance of a math error, especially as my numbers get bigger. Because now I didn't have to do 14 times 5. I got to do 7 times 5. It makes it much easier. If I have a common factor and a number on top and a number on bottom, I can divide it out before I do the multiplication. But it has to be in multiplication before you do it too. I can't do it when it's in division. Okay, go ahead and turn, actually this is on the bottom of your page. Excuse me. Determine the LCM. We're only asking for one of these. So if I were you, as soon as I see LCM, I would say all of them. But even if you don't, remember it's on the board. That will still be up there on Friday. Literally all I do, 8, 12. Here's where my 4 key numbers come in. Can I divide those both by 2? Yes. Gives me a 4 and a 6. Can I divide those by 2? Yes. I do another layer. Gives me a 2 and a 3. Can I divide those by 2? Well, actually, that's 2 of my numbers, so I know I'm done. So LCM is all of them, so I'm going to multiply everything. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. So my LCM is 24. Do I need the GCF? No, but if I needed it, 2 times 2 is 4. The GCF is also easy. 6 and 9, we get the same deal. 6 and 9. Can I divide them both by 2? No. Can't divide 9 by 2. Can I divide them both by 3? Yes. 3 gives me a 2 and a 3. That's 2 of my numbers, so I'm done. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. Okay, any questions on page 1? I can, but it'll be on the video. I need to make sure I get done first. Number 5, determine the GCF of each set. So we've got 72 and 30. And if I were you, right, as soon as I see GCF, I'd go ahead and write on the left, just to make sure you don't forget. Because otherwise you do all the work and you might get confused which one you're doing, although it is right there on the board as well. And I start the same way. Can I divide those both by 2? Yes. 2 gives me 36 and 15. Can I divide those by 2? By 3? Yes. So I do another layer with 3. Gives me 12 and 5. Can I divide those by 2? 3, 5. So I know I'm done. So GCF is on the left. I'm multiplying these two numbers. So my GCF equals 6. 30 and 54. Same deal. Can I divide those both by 2? Yes. Gives me a 15 and 27. Can I divide both those by 2? No. By 3? Yes. So I do another layer with 3. Gives me a 5 and 9. 5 and 9. 5 is one of my key numbers. It doesn't go into 9, so I know I'm done. GCF is on the left. I multiply it 2 times 3, and I get 6 once again. It's okay. You'd still get it. You still get the same thing. Okay, Ling is a camp counselor. She's in charge of the weekly craft activity for 40 campers. She plans to make fabric cover frames that each require 1/6 yard of fabric. The camp director gave her 6 2/3 yards of fabric remnants for this project. Does Ling have enough fabric for her craft activity? There's my question. Does she have enough? So, excuse me. In this case, I'm taking the 6 2/3 and I'm dividing it into 1/6 pieces of fabric. Does everybody agree with that? Because that's a huge piece. We don't have a commuted property of division. I must set it up properly or it'll get the wrong answer. Excuse me. Mixed numbers. I have to slam dunk before I can actually solve. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 is 20. 20/3 divided by 1/6, but I don't divide fractions. Instead, I'm going to keep, change, flip. I keep the first number like it is, change it to multiplication, flip my second number, 6 over 1. Now that I'm in multiplication, now I can look for reductions. I have a 3 and a 6. I can divide both those by 3. Does that make sense, Leanne? So just to make my math easier. Because now all I got to do is 20 times 2 is 40. 1 times 1 is 1, which equals 40. So she can get 40 sets. Is that enough for her 40 campers? Yes. Doesn't mean it will be on the test. The test may end up being no, because it is different numbers. Make sure you do the math. They have enough. You can do it that way as well. If you did 40 times 1/6, you'd find out it came out to 6 2/3, and then you'd see that they have enough. Okay? That's why there's a full sentence answer. Ladies, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Okay, determine the area of a square picture that has a side length of 14 centimeters. Technically, we didn't give you the square, but it is the same as a parallelogram or rectangle, base times height, but my base and height are the same. So my area equals 14 centimeters times 14 centimeters. So I'm just doing 14 times 14. Gives me 1,196. Do not forget your units. You're going to lose half credit if you don't have the units. Does everybody understand that? I will say it again. You will lose half credit if you don't have the units. Make sure you put the units in your answers, especially on area. Okay, determine the area of the shaded figure. So I mentioned this when I was talking about you guys' homework the other day. Anytime they do the shaded region, more often than not, you're better finding the whole area and taking away the parts that you can easily identify. So I'm going to do 1 as the big rectangle, so this whole piece. 2 will be this little triangle. 3 is going to be this trapezoid. Yes, Liam? Okay, so number 1 is the big rectangle. So my area equals my base times my height. Here's one of the biggest things I noticed when you guys were doing your homework. For those of you who did write down the formula like I asked you to, you still didn't identify the base and height on the figure, which led to problems because you were using the wrong numbers. So please, on number 1, say, okay, here's my base, here's my height. Is that difficult? No, but if you do that, doesn't it make it really easy to put into the formula now? Should. So my area equals, my base I said was 12 centimeters, times my height I said is 9 centimeters. So that gives me an area of 108 centimeters squared. So that's where I'm starting. Number 2, this is a triangle. So triangle, my area equals 1/2 the base times the height. In this case, my magic square would be right there, meaning I need the 5 and the 9. So I'm going to call the 5 my base. The height is still my 9. So area is 1/2 times 5 centimeters times 9 centimeters. They're both odd, so I'm just going to do 1/2 times 45 centimeters squared, which is going to give me 22.5 centimeters squared. So there's my first, that second part. Number 3, this is a trapezoid. So my base formula, area equals 1/2 of base 1 plus base 2 times the height. I can, but that's why this is on a video. We have 10 minutes left in class. So I need my 2 bases. In this case, I know that it's 5 centimeters to there. I know the whole thing is 12. So that means that this is 7 centimeters. Again, you'll have enough information, but they may not give it to you. You may need to find some of it. So in this case, I'm going to say base 1 and base 2. Here is my height. Now you just put those into my formula. 1/2. Base 1 was 7 centimeters plus base 2 is 6 times my height of 4. Order of operations, I have to do this addition first. 1/2 times 13 centimeters times 4 centimeters. I have an even number, so I'm just going to take half of 4 and make that 2. So that becomes 26 square centimeters. I now have all the pieces. Now I need to, this is where you have to remember, am I putting it together, taking it apart? In this case, I'm taking it apart. So I started with the whole thing of 108. Because of the numbers, I'm going to take 3 away first. I'm going to subtract 26. gives me 82. Then I'm going to subtract number 2, which was 22 5/10. Means I need to add a 0, so that becomes 5/10. 11 minus 2 is 9, 7 minus 2 is 5. So the shaded region area is 59 5/10. Don't forget your units, centimeters squared.
I don't even know what we're doing because we're doing stuff.
That's why it'll be on the video. If you need to, you can go back and look at it. So, number 9. This is where it's easy because these are just simple figures. Number 9 is just a trapezoid. Area 1/2 of my base 1's base 2 added together times the height, boys. So I need to identify my two bases, base 1 and base 2. Remember, your bases are always the parallel sides. Your height will be the dotted line off of your magic box. So in this case, area is 1/2. Base 1 was 15 feet. Base 2 is 6 feet. Times my height of 8 gives me 1/2 of 21 feet times 8 feet. Take half of 8 gives me 4. So my area equals 84 square feet. Forgot that A. 21. Sorry. Okay, guys, quiet. This is a triangle. Area is 1/2 of the base times the height. Here's my magic box. Remember, my base is going to be the solid part of the line. I don't care what that is. It's not part of the figure, but this is. That's my base. My height is the one that is totally dashed. But the key is identify a base and a height. In this case, area is 1/2. My base, I said, is 4.5 meters. My height is 4 meters. So I'm going to take half of the 4 to make that 2. So now I have 4.5 times 2, meaning I need to slam dunk. Gives me 9/2 times 2 over 1. I can have one reduction. I can reduce those by 1. Gives me 9 over 1, or 9 meters squared. Honestly, this should be checking your answers, number 1. Number 2, it'll be on the video, but we have 5 minutes left. I have 2 problems left to do. C, this is a parallelogram. Area equals base times height. I have a base here, height here. All I'm going to do is multiply those numbers. 20 feet times 4.5. Again, mixed number means I need to slam dunk. Multiply, then add 20 over 1 times 9 over 2. I have one reduction, 2 and 20. I can divide both those by 2, gives me a 1 and 10. 10 times 9 is 90. 1 times 1 is 1. So it is 90 square feet. And our last one, another complex figure. So 3 major ways to do this. I'm just going to choose to go this way. Put a line in there so I have 2 rectangles. So for rectangle 1, it's a rectangle, so it's length times width. My length is 4. My width, I know it's 12 meters from there to there. I know it's 6 meters from there to there, meaning this is 6 meters. So length times width gives me 6 meters times 4 meters, or 24 meters squared. That's the first part. My second part is also a rectangle, so it's length times width. This time, my length is 6, my width is 16. So it gives me 6 meters times 16 meters, or 96 square meters. So really, the only 2 problems that should cause you any issues was, I believe it was number 5 and number 8D, the 2 complex figures. Number 8. Those are the 2 toughest problems on the test, guys. But the figures look just like that. If you can understand how to break them down and either put them together or take them apart, you'll be just fine. 2C was 90 square feet. Go back to B as well. So that is your test in a nutshell. Again, the numbers will be different, but if you understand how to work them, you should be just fine. Any questions before we stop? Yes?
Before you do it, can you put the formulas on the video?
Sure. I'll put them on the first page. Okay? So all the formulas, so you'll know what's at the end, but they're major ones. Triangle. Area is 1/2 base height. For a rectangle. Guys, quiet down. Area is length times width. Guys, sit down. For a parallelogram. Area equals base times height. And for a trapezoid, area equals 1/2 of your two bases added together times the height. So there, you have the formulas at the end of the video. Any other questions? Okay, good luck. Make sure you study.